Welcome everyone, welcome online. I hope you can hear us and see us well. Please write in the chat if you would like to say maybe your city or just to say hello to everyone. It's always a pleasure to have you. So we have, I don't expect anyone from North America or South America to join given the time, but let's see if we have some surprises. You know, we can have some dedicated people online. Europe mainly, yes, in Asia a little bit. Okay. I'm not surprised. I see names I know in the list. Hello, Mark. Mohamed, hey, Mohamed from the EMDIEL. The repeats is here. Welcome on board. Valentin from ESCP is here. Hi, Vade. Bashis also is here. Long time no see, my friend. All right. I will, pending more people joining, I will quickly share my screen now, introduce a quick facts about ESCP. And then in like a minute, we can introduce everyone and start. That sounds good. So if you would give me just a second. Yes, right. Can you see my screen? Yeah. Wait.
Not shared, not in presentation. Yes.
All right, let's go. Okay, the poll is being answered. That's great. Mark from Germany. Yes, Mark, I know. I know. Thanks for coming. All right, quick word about ESCP, because all of us here online, Lennart, Yolanda, René, and I, we are part of ESCP, or at least ESCP network at the moment. ESCP is the oldest business school in the world. It was created more than 2 centuries ago. We have 6+1 urban campuses actually today in the cities you see on the screen, which is pretty unique setup. There are no other schools with that many campuses to really give you a full prism of what you can see, like a pan-European vision of business, and as a matter of fact, today entrepreneurship as well. And we have 45 academic alliances in 48 countries and 75K alumni in more than 170 countries. I won't bore you with the quick facts. This is recorded. This presentation is recorded. You will get it in the follow-up email early next week. But yes, always good to know and to have it with you if you're interested in ESCP or if you're part already of ESCP. So how many participants? So far we have 53. So quickly, the agenda for today, as we are limited in time, I will introduce the topic and especially the speakers, and then we will dig into or dive into the main topic, the main subject today with Professor Mauer. And this will be also an interactive masterclass. It's kind of revisited format because there will be some questions and some interaction or conversation during the masterclass today with Lennart and Yolanda here also. Thank you again, guys, for being here. Then this presentation, this masterclass is kind of overarched, or it's kind of sponsored, let's say, by one of our executive masters that I will quickly introduce to you at the end of this presentation. And we will also save some time for Q&A, because I guess you will have questions raised along the way. So that's it for me. I hope it is clear. I hope you can still hear and see properly now, like the screen. And so I will quickly introduce our speakers today, especially like starting with our academic point of view, academic expert, Professor René Mauer. Thank you for being here. Professor Mauer is Professor for Entrepreneurship and Innovation at ESCP Business School. He's also Academic Director of the Executive Master in Digital Innovation and Entrepreneurial Leadership, EMDIEL for short. As it's not already enough, he's also European coordinator of the Jean-Baptiste Institute for Entrepreneurship. Yes, and also running his own business about effectuation intelligence in the German-speaking region. So thanks, René, for being here. Second speaker today is an alumna from ESCP, Yolanda. Yolanda is Senior Manager in Digital Innovation and Business Design at IDNH in the Netherlands. That's a leading consulting technology firm specialized in the retail, financial services, and healthcare sector. So Yolanda is an experienced and enthusiastic business designer, and she's also an EMDIEL alumna from the 2021 cohort. Last but not least, Lennart, co-founder and CEO of Bex Technologies GmbH, is based in Stuttgart, Germany, and the company is a startup building a digital logistic platform for the construction industry. So Lennart is having a proven and diverse knowledge of starting businesses and implementing digital strategies in challenging setting. And as a matter of fact, Lennart is also an EMDIEL alumni from the pioneering cohort of 2017. Sorry. So that's it for me for now. René, Professor Mauer, the floor is yours now. If you would like to share the screen as well.
Happy to. Yes, I think you have to unshare for a moment.
Yes.
Then I'm
so that you have the freedom to move, come and go with yes, exactly, with your slides.
Okay, let me see. Does that work for everybody?
It does.
Great, wonderful. Yes, thank you very much for this amazing opportunity. Good to see you, Yolanda. Good to see you, Lennart. It's a little bit family reunion from the EMDIEL side here, so very excited to be here. Also, thank you for everybody who is interested in our topic here. We called it the art of making things happen, driving innovation with entrepreneurial ambidexterity. A lot of buzzwords, you know, I've just been discussing yesterday with the executive group about how much buzzwords there are in this field, you know, about entrepreneurship, about innovation. Well, we are trying at the same institute really to, you know, drill down definitions that make sense and can add value, right? So right here, we're talking about the fact that we look at entrepreneurship at ESCP in a broader context. So we do look at startups, obviously, but we're also looking into other organizational forms, primarily also interested in how entrepreneurship and the knowledge and the tools and the methods of entrepreneurship can also, for example, take place in corporate settings, which is a little bit the topic of today. Just this morning, I was spending time with a larger group from a corporate who are experimenting with us on that. And this is very dear to us because it gives us the opportunity of using our knowledge, designing around it, bring it back to practice and seeing what can work, how things have to work, where it's kind of, you know, where it needs some redesign, and how to really also then get back and come home with new questions that we want to tackle. So the overarching topic behind it, let's see if the slide is moving. There we go. Why do we need innovation? Do we need innovation? Who needs innovation? it's interesting to discuss that with the executives coming from different, corporate contexts or company contexts. And there's a very straightforward, economic rationale. Well, if we are the ones with the new ideas and we have it first and we can kind of capture it, then we have a monopolistic position and can use that, right? We can commercialize it and get higher prices. We can be the ones who are the providing the better solution in this moment and thereby profiting on the market. And this is obviously true, but there are also other additional effects, right? So one thing that is very important is we've seen that it's positive customer perception that matters as well in the context of innovation, right? So the topic of brand loyalty, customers, clients like buying and being engaged with companies who have a constant flow of innovation running, right? Who take care of a development in their product and service range. And particularly in these days, very important, staff, staff that you want to attract likes overall to work in companies that take care of their long-term existence, right? And doing that by innovation and on innovation-related activities. So overall, we need innovation. Yes, it does increase business success on various fronts here. And so it's for sure something that as a business function and as a task for companies needs attention. So what is the issue now here that we want to address here? Well, there's an issue coming with innovation, and that is particularly in front end and early stage innovation, that it comes with uncertainty and with high levels of uncertainty, meaning that we don't really necessarily know what to do exactly now to be successful with our activities in this topical area. And I want to quickly address that as basically the underlying challenge in doing activities out there in this world, in a still very dynamic, ever more dynamic world out there, out of various reasons. And I want to add a thing or a concept from our entrepreneurship research there by the name of Effectuation, which is in its essence distilled entrepreneurial expertise. So the field or researchers in the field have looked at expert entrepreneurs, how they think, decide, and act, have distilled their expertise in principles, and have been able now to describe how these people act successfully, actively act under conditions of uncertainty, under conditions where a lot of people naturally probably would just rather turn away and try to find something less uncertain instead of acting in these contexts. And then finally, I want to go back to the corporate context, where we want to ask the question and give a little bit of an answer to how do we organize now for standard management practice and procedures that are necessary for companies to drive and execute their daily business, but then also give room for the more exploratory entrepreneurial modes of finding new innovation, new innovative ideas. That's the flow of the argument here. I start with an expert entrepreneur here. This is Mark Randolph, who has founded a lot of companies, but probably most known for Netflix right here. And if you go to YouTube, there's a link here. You can have this interesting, very short film where he actually is speaking to an audience saying that nobody knows anything. And what he's referring to is exactly what I was referring to right now when I was talking about the early stages of new ideas. This is when you cannot know what will work out and what will not work out. He's been starting 7 startups. You see them on the right-hand side, and he's claiming, honestly, I could not have known which one is going to be a hit, which one is going to be a failure. And it's a very powerful statement, talking about this problem of uncertainty that is connected with innovation out there. So what we can do is, yes, please, go ahead.
Can I interrupt with the previous slide? Sorry, just a quick question to Lennart. Maybe, like, what do you think about what Mark said? Like, considering that you have both like the founder experience and also corporate, you also worked in the corporate world. So what do you think?
Well, I think about the general quote here that nobody knows anything, and what René also said previously about uncertainty. I think it's so what I figured in the past years, also since I studied the EMDIEL at the ESCP. To me, I found out that it's very often it's not really about knowing. So I agree with Mark. In short, because I think very often to be successful in innovation and to further develop a business, what innovation very often is about, at least for me, it's about building and proving hypotheses, and if you can't prove them, so if you falsify them, then you'll go on and build new hypotheses. And I think that's very much what it's about. So I kind of agree with Mark, and it might seem pretty hard to agree on such a statement. But I think the core of it, or the meaning behind it, is definitely true.
Thanks a lot for the input. You can go on, René.
Yeah, it's a good point, right? So it's about testing things, and it's about trying out things. He's actually making the point that you have to act into these spaces, right? You have to act and try out things, and then there are many different possible routes of how to potentially try things. The reason we can still kind of draw in such a picture here, right? So if we think about projects that start with kind of higher levels of uncertainty, because we do not really know a lot of the details of how to actually carry something out, then we're starting on the left-hand side of this spectrum. And over time, we're trying to go to the right of the spectrum, right? Where currently, if we're talking about corporates, a lot of the daily business activities are happening, right? We spend most of our time now from a company perspective that is existing for a long time on the right-hand side, daily business, where we spend most of our time here. And it's the left-hand side that is being addressed by Mark Randolph, right? This is the context where nobody knows anything. The innovations space, where future can be shaped, needs to be shaped, where we need people to go in and try out new things. So when we talk about this left-hand side of the spectrum, there is this professor, a colleague of ours in the entrepreneurship field by the name of Sarah Saraswati, who has tried to understand how people think, decide, and act on this left-hand side. On this left-hand side, where it's hard to predict, where we need to try out and we need to explore our new ideas here. And this was basically her research. And when she researched she researched it from expert entrepreneurs. So she actually found expert entrepreneurs who sat down with her and went through a thought experiment and discussed with her how they would actually carry out an early stage project, an early stage project that they weren't really sure about how to tackle it. So very much this left-hand side area. And what she found out, you can see it visualized already a little bit on the right-hand side, is now referred to as effectuation. Right, so it's principles extracted from expert entrepreneurs, capturing their logic in moving into these uncertainty spaces. And I'm going to quickly introduce a couple of these principles to give you an idea of what it is. Just before doing that, it's research that has been started around the year 2000. So you can see we're super quick in research, right, in terms of adopting and developing knowledge here. But you can also see how after some time of even getting absorbed in our own academic field, it now really has a big peak and uplift in terms of discussions in the scholarly world. And as I was mentioning already earlier, as today's morning session for me very clearly showed, also by going and bringing it back to practice here. So how can I easily or more easily explain it to you? I will contrast it between those two spheres here. So the daily business side, I will show you planning principles. And then on the opposite side, on the effectuation side, for the high uncertainty innovation space, I will give you the counterpart effectuation principle right here. And thereby giving you a little bit of a substance of what this entrepreneurial approach to drive innovation can actually mean and look like when we do it in practice. So the first principle is all about how to get started. And in planning mode, right-hand side, that's pretty clear, right? So what should be on the table? We go from the end point. We start by the goal. It's important to know who you're cooking for. It's important, to choose a recipe when you're trying to create a meal for particular people. You want to buy best ingredients and then cook by the recipe the best meal that you can actually come up with, right? So it's very much endpoint driven, and then you're deriving your way towards it. Now, what Saraswati finds with yes, please go ahead.
Do you mind if I ask a
no,
quick
absolutely
question to
not.
Yolanda here? Yeah, to reflect this on a more also day-to-day or daily activity side. Yolanda, like what's your take on this? Like in your daily activity, what do you need as an exact recipe, if you keep the analogy?
Yeah, thanks, Manon. I thought about that question, and to be honest, me as a person, I don't like to use recipes at all, because simply I don't have the patience for it. And also at home, I just love to cook from what I have, and it's different from compared to my husband, who really likes to keep the recipes. But if I have to choose what is the recipe that I actually always use for my daily activities, simply my navigation in my car, because I hate to be stuck in traffic jams, and especially after Corona, the highway here in the Netherlands is stuck with traffic again. So that's actually my #1 recipe to go to when I have to go to the office or leave the office.
Interesting, because it's kind of also the bridge between your personal life and your work life. And what do you think, Lennart?
Well, I just thought of an example from this morning. So this morning I sat down with a colleague, and we were trying to come up with a pitch for key account customers of ours, and there it's exactly like René explained. So we know who we are cooking for. We know probably not exactly, but roughly enough what they wanna have. So because we talked to them before, right? So we know basically what to cook. Now basically we just wrote our own recipe by writing an outline of what should be in the pitch, and what do we want to achieve, and what do we want to emphasize, and what do we want to highlight, and what do we think this pitch will lead to as a possible next step. So that's for me a typical planning mode. There's been through this situation so much in my life that I kind of have a GPS system in my head of like where to go, basically for that. So
that's a good comparison. Thanks a lot.
That's a good point. My morning session was also kind of planned, right? So because I was supposed to moderate that session, and then obviously you want to have this recipe. What do I do at 9:30? What do I do at 10:15 and so forth? And then still, with the dynamics of the session and people interacting, at 10:45 you have to rethink your next steps back there, because they either time-wise don't fit in, or the kind of conversation went to a different path. So even in those pre-planned things, you can see how uncertainty already kind of plays a role, or the unplannable at least steps in, and then still it's good to kind of have a planned start into it. So going back to our expert entrepreneurs, what Saraswati finds, what they do is they do not spend a lot of time on the endpoint definition. They much rather spend time on thinking about the means they have available to them. So they're basically looking into their fridge, if we stick with the food and cooking metaphor, right? So it's in the fridge, it's, oh, I have some butter and I have vegetables and I have some cream. Let's see what can make out of that. And for the entrepreneurial process, it's pretty similar. They very much go by what is their own preferences, you know, what would they like to act into, what are their skills, what have they learned before, what have they worked on before, what are the what is knowledge that they bring to the table, and then also who do they know? Who do they know that they can relate to, and in that sense, kind of knit a network of people that they can very quickly reach out to and work with. So the secret here is spending time on the means available to them, because that immediately gives them the opportunity to get into action.
And so here, what would you guys take out of your, like, what do you take out from your fridge? Like maybe Lennart, you want to start this time? In order to quickly get into action, like what do you need? Like if you have just a toolbox that you never leave.
Well, you know, I always think of this effectuation principle when I look at the way that at the company I started, how we are developing new services with our clients. And just yesterday, my old boss, like maybe my first real boss ever from 15 years ago, visited me at my office, and I explained a little bit to him what I do now. And we were talking about, because he's also got some expertise in the space that we're in. So he was saying, oh, well, there is so he said, you know, I could think of a service like this, and it would be like this and like this. So why don't you offer something like that? And why don't you offer something like that? So it's also innovative, creative ideas coming from him. But then I explained to him, well, basically what we are doing is we're developing new services by looking at like which customers are the easiest, or the ones with the most potential to talk to about new services. So basically, before we check the fridge, we even check the kitchen, like who's in there, or who's most likely to come and join us to go to the kitchen. And then probably before we open the fridge, we talk to them about, you know, we talk to them about food, and then we open the fridge, right? So creating new services together with customers who are also interested and also have the not just the capabilities but also the right mindset to start, you know, cooking with us. And for us, this means-driven approach is really important for finding new potential for new service and new sales that also have a direct impact on our business, and we don't build something in an ivory tower and then have to educate the market for how good our new service is and how innovative it is, because it's genuinely innovative, because we've created it through not through a planned but through a very innovative approach with enough space for to take in everything that comes to our minds while we cook, so while we build and test and improve the thing that we are doing. So
Asking questions rings a bell, René, for later in the presentation. Maybe quick word from Yolanda, and then we time is running.
Yes, of course. Yeah, from my perspective.
Thanks a lot, Lennart, by the way. Very cool explanation.
Yeah, and from Lennart, it was more like the entrepreneurial perspective on how to approach these effectuation principles. For me, since I work in corporate innovation and I really consult my clients on innovation, what they expect from me is also to bring that outside-in perspective before I start every project. So the first thing I checked when I open my fridge is actually my network. So who do I know who can bring value? And when I start, I just pick the first one and then ask after I've interviewed some external corporate on how they position innovation and how they actually run and execute their experiments. I just simply try to ask them like, okay, who is the next best person who I need to speak to? So in that way, of course, I do have a somewhat planned mode before I start executing my projects. But with this approach, with this effectuation-based way of interviewing, you just get to know new people, and your network broadens even further. So for me, that was really helpful. And also one of the main things I also learned during my EMDIEL program, because before that, I was always a little bit hesitant of like reaching out to my network. But what is actually the worst thing that can happen? The worst thing is basically, well, sorry, I don't have time to for an interview or whatever. And that's actually the only no that you got. So for me, that was really helpful to really nurture and leverage my network.
I think these are great examples of seeing that, you know, there's energy in the possibility to try out quickly, right? And there are a couple of ways of trying out quickly, even under uncertainty, when you don't know what will work, what will not work, right? So using your means, that's one way of doing it. And that is kind of a counter argument, right? So you start with your means that are close available instead of reaching for a far out goal. And then if you look, for example, into the second principle of effectuation, which is more an investment category, it again allows you to make a quick trial, you know, while the planning principle is rather, you know, I choose the best, you know, net present value deriving project that I have. So I'll go for the project that will eventually give me the highest turnout, the highest outcome. The expert entrepreneurs in Saraswati's study, they are the ones going by affordable loss investments. So these are small investments that again allow them to quickly try out, as Yolanda and also Lennart were just saying. And if it doesn't work, well, it doesn't break the people's necks, right? So as in that, by the way, it's a ChatGPT derived image up there on the top right. So it's kind of the safety net of the entrepreneur who falls, right, when trying out something. But psychologically, it's great because you can try out because you don't feel, you know, threatened for life in this moment, right? And this is important if you want to try out quickly under uncertainty. Two more, there's a third one that we also kind of touched upon with Yolanda and Lennart's examples. So if I want to make my way towards my endpoint in planning, I want to make sure that whatever hits me from left and right, I know beforehand and have countermeasures, like risk management, right? And what the expert entrepreneurs take on more as a mindset is what is more leveraging contingency approach, right? They try to increase even their return on luck. So they deliberately expose themselves. You know, Yolanda just takes the first person, talks to the first person, and even asks the first person who should be the second person, right? Not knowing who exactly that's going to lead to, but being very quickly in action, and through that action generate more opportunities of how to explore your way forward. So again, one of the principles that it helps to get quickly into the trying mode, into the active trying mode, although you're acting under uncertainty. And finally,
René,
yes, sorry, go ahead.
Quickly, so maybe one of you wants to answer first, but concretely, like in a business context, like how can you increase this return on luck? Like what's the take on this one?
Yeah, I think I have something to share there, because one thing that I learned is working harder and harder actually does not increase my return on luck. What I learned is that when I make a connection with someone and when I reach out to someone, it really is about, to me, making a real and sincere connection. So what I mean, if I reach out to someone and share my passion, for example, I'm really passionate about innovation and I want to deep dive into what AI can mean for innovation and how AI can actually accelerate my innovation processes, like my designs, but also how I can improve my experiments that I perform. So I reach out to other innovators in the field from my clients' companies, just to share our thoughts and share our learnings. And for me, this is a subtle way also to not like directly generate business, like, hey, is there new projects coming on? We can work together. But no, really from my passion, let's work on this AI innovation field together, and then let's see if we can work on a future project together.
Thanks a lot for sharing.
So for me, it's more about going out and meeting people. So what I've learned, I mean, it has been a bit harder in the past years due to COVID, but so what I've learned is, you know, when I go out and meet people, be it customers or be it other founders that I talk to, or be it suppliers, or be it investors, usually good things will happen. So I'll always come back with like a connection or an input or an idea or something that I've seen or something that I've been told that brings me further. And so with going out and what we've also learned about during the EMDIEL, using serendipity and letting serendipity in your life, that usually helps. And sometimes it really helps me, you know, really drag my own butt out the house to an event or something like that after a long day at work. That really increases my return on luck.
So the people component seems to be very central and very key factor here for the return on luck. Does make sense, knowing the EMDIEL and also yeah.
Well, we saw a lot of network knitting already among EMDIELs, right? So there have been you know, lots of great collaborations being formed, not necessarily during the program, but even, you know, afterwards through the networks that were being raised, which probably is also kind of reflecting this last principle, which in, you know, how to execute in planning, that's pretty much a positioning logic. You know, I want to be in the sweet and perfect spot here, in an optimal spot. In effectuation, it's very much like Yolanda and Lennart shared, right? It's about, you know, finding the ones that, I used Uncle Scrooge here, probably not the best picture, but, you know, somebody that you're talking to, and while you're sharing your passion, Yolanda, you want to have something also light up in the other person's eyes, right? If that happens, and if you then match there, you can actually engage into an interaction and do a creative and innovative interaction, even though you both know that it's still kind of uncertain what the path ahead is, right? And I think in some, this is kind of interesting to see that these effectuation principles, effectual shaping principles, as we call them here, that they are in some helping people to quickly get into action under uncertainty, primarily leading them to interaction with others. And I think the assumption there is that somewhere out there is valuable information that jointly then helps us to move forward into then less uncertain spaces and to less uncertain phases. So this is expert entrepreneurs. You could say, you know, people who build new companies. We're now interested into how can you organize for ambidexterity. Ambidexterity meaning both-handedness, and coming with this idea of we want to have both in all organizations. Yesterday, I was talking to a lot of executives who were coming from very differently sized organizations. So I had people from organizations that were 10 people big, and I had people that came from 100,000 people organizations. The 10 people company people said, you know, we're doing all of that all the time at the same time, and primarily also have to worry about the left-hand side of it all the time. It's our daily business, actually. It's not only the right-hand side daily business, the left-hand side is our daily business as well. And then you have the larger companies who take a lot of care about the predictable planning-based right-hand side of it. And the question there really is, how do we get the left-hand side, not necessarily equally in terms of intensity and size, but how do we give it its space that it needs to also more forward-looking in a more forward-looking way, let companies thrive. And you see one example here. This is one way of doing it. This is a DHL example. This is a moving the left-hand side to a different location solution, right? So you see on the right-hand side, Bonn, central city. There you have the line management, the daily business folks. And then if you go 15 kilometers outside, you go to Troisdorf and you meet the innovation center. You can see it behind the flags there. It says innovation center, right? Different people working there, different people working here. Interesting way of doing it, probably nice idea. The question there is always, how do I bridge then over, right? Plus, we're also interested from the same institute and ESCP, and also through a lot of engagement with our EMDIEL participants, how can that actually work if you want to have it in one company and maybe even with the same people? Right, and this is how we are working right now, also with this example from the morning, where next to basically the corporate logic, where projects are rather containership-like, and where there's a lot of central steering and a lot of work on goals and derivation of smart goals, we're looking deeply into designing around small, innovative, innovation-oriented, exploratory speedboat initiatives. We look for self-organization in established firms, and still allow a management layer to kind of set guardrails and a strategic ambition, so that it still kind of fuels into the overall ambition and idea of what the company is doing over the short or the longer term. And that's interesting to think through, because it needs its space, and that space needs to be designed. And there have been amazing initiatives already with EMDIEL participants during the study programs when we were trying this out, or even in master thesis projects where they have been working a lot into that, and helping us kind of understand better what a fruitful design there could be to eventually foster the art of making things happen through what we here now called entrepreneurial ambidexterity, both-handedness in organizations.
Great, thanks a lot, René. Can you please go back to the previous slide? Maybe it would be interesting here to ask both Lennart and Yolanda, like all things. So this is a wrap, right? All things considered, do you pay particular attention to design your organizations with elements from both sides? So that's first part of a tough question, maybe, and maybe like what, in your opinion, what could be the challenges, when growing, or with what you see on the market today, like what could be the challenges related to that?
Yolanda,
I don't know who wants to start.
As you're talking, you can start, and I can finish off, Lennart.
Right. So I mean, of course, my company now, we're 4 years old, and we are about 50 people now in several divisions. So we have the product and tech people, we have sales, marketing, account management, we have also operations people who take care about logistics operations running smoothly, and that very much is the daily business. So there's still innovation going on in that sector, but it's got a high emphasis on planning, because it's the core business and the daily business. So there we really have to design the organization that we emphasize on planning and on processes and on repeating the same thing in the same quality over and over. Of course, we are trying to constantly improve, but then again, that's already other people that are still a part of that unit but have a different job. So they have to be aware of what is the daily business, so that they can improve and redesign, but not during ongoing operations, but and also not 15 kilometers apart. I mean, they're even more kilometers apart because we're a remote first company, but technically just take it out, put it like on the next desk virtually and then think of an operational problem and come up with creative solutions, then again more in a way that I would describe as more effectual. And on the other side, same goes for sales or for account management or for marketing, for a lot of the stuff we do there. But at the end of the day, coming back to my previous example, when we design for new services, for new income sources, that's very much a different way, and we need a different kind of organization. We need to ask different questions. We need to look at different things, and we also need to put on another hat. So especially in a small organization like ours, it's really important to be polyvalent and at many functions, and to create enough space time-wise, but also really like go zoom out for one or two steps to iterate on the business itself and not just work within the business itself. So we definitely have to design our organization to do both.
Yolanda, maybe last word.
Yeah, last word on this. I think from a corporate innovation perspective, I've just finished off a research among several corporates on how they actually organize their innovation activities. And what you see is that, of course, the corporates are like big container ships. They're very much focused all their activities in planning mode. However, they also need to create a space and create an environment where they can enable the shaping mode and the entrepreneurial mode. And what you see right now is that a lot of corporates, at least in the Netherlands, are closing down or like reducing the amount of employees in their innovation hubs. And they actually focus innovation that needs to be implemented in 1 to 2 years, the so-called incremental innovation activities. They place that more into line of the business. So really much close to the strategy of the firm, and the so-called future-oriented innovation, where you need to be ready as a corporate for disruption in your market. That is actually placed more outside of the organization. And of course, you can organize that the way that René showed, like DHL does that, in a separate building and with different environment, different people, but you can also form those hubs within the same building. However, those departments, they have like they are run like autonomous to actually really focus on that future-oriented innovation and get ready for disruption in their markets.
Je moet eerst je iPhone ontgrendelen.
It's interesting. So it's very much like a combination of factors, right? Size of the company, if it is established or very young, or how you structure your internal teams.
And I think it's all about a balance. You need to find for a healthy balance.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd like to quickly draw on Tarek's question, because he's asking in the chat here, in a corporate setting, don't you find that innovation might create conflicting energies with others that prefer the tried and tested methods? Oh yeah, absolutely. So this morning we were talking about headwind, right? So people who were starting now to innovate out of their own interest, they were, reporting headwind perceptions, right? And there's a lot of this reactions of, oh, we have done that before type of reactions, right? And this is something that obviously then people who are willing to try out these paths need to kind of be equipped for, in that sense, right? The mechanism that we installed, Tarek, is that we let people self-select. So we don't, there's no way of forcing people to do innovation, right? That's I would even say it's impossible. Right. So if they really are supposed to tap into these uncertainty spaces, it needs to be voluntarily, right? And you need to give them some empowerment for that, right? And this is one way of kind of dealing with that, in the sense that you're inviting openly, and then the ones come who want to explore these kind of paths. And then, yes, you also have to kind of equip them a little bit for the headwind situations.
Thanks a lot. I will, to all of you, I will just quickly reshare my screen to wrap up this session and potentially answer the remaining questions. All right. Oh, it is back to, of course, it happens all the time. Ah, la, la. All right. Now, here we go again. Let me know if you cannot see it. Now you should. All right. I don't know why it just wants to show me Randolph all the time. Okay. So this topic, this very interesting topic, is very much trendy, but also nice to show that there is no one against, like no methods against one another. It really depends on, as we saw, on many factors, including the kind of business you're in, the size of the company, the people you are with, the overall strategy. That's something we are also trying to apply, or at least this effectuation method. That's definitely something that at ESCP we are trying to apply to some of our programs, either like as a part of a course within a big program, or at the essence of the program. That's pretty much what happens also in the EMDIEL, so Executive Master in Digital Innovation and Entrepreneurial Leadership, which quickly, in a few facts, we just have a few minutes, but if you want more information, please get back to me. I would be really happy to browse the executive education offer with you, see what could be a fit, and especially on the EMDIEL, I'm your contact person. So briefly, it's the 6th cohort that is actually currently studying and finishing this August, and the next intake end of August will be the 7th already. We have 3 main profiles of participants in general, so entrepreneurs, intrapreneurs, also specialists, like engineers, for instance, or scientists, or medical managers who are seeking to reorientate themselves in a more digital, like in the digital field and areas. Of course, it is an executive Master of Science, accredited, fully accredited and recognized. The cohort are quite small compared to an executive MBA or an MBA, or like, you know, those kind of full-time masters. Here we have more like 12, 15 participants to 20 maximum, with an average age of 32. Yeah, 6 or 8 years of work experience. It's super diverse. You can see like 15 people and almost as many nationalities. Like the current cohort, for instance, there are 10 different nationalities for 14 people. You see, it brings like a lot of different point of view, like super diverse background, super diverse nationalities. All of this together, I think Professor Mauer could confirm that it does bring interesting ideas and or at least confrontation or peer-to-peer reviews also during the course. But yeah, that's mainly it. I don't want to give you today too many details. There are core courses you can see on the screen, including those. So it's very much around innovation, entrepreneurship, but that's why we also use entrepreneurial leadership, like in the title. That's, you don't have to be an entrepreneur, or you don't have to want to start create a startup to benefit from this program. It's all in the mindset and like what you want to bring on the table, what kind of project you want to elaborate, whether it's creating a business unit, expanding on the international markets, growing your network, because you go to 6 locations, as you can see. So 6 different ecosystems, like startup or entrepreneurial ecosystem at least. You will also meet corporate speakers or leaders. So yeah, it's and the modular structure is very or matches a busy schedule. I mean, maybe Yolanda and Lennart could comment on that, but at least you have 6 weeks to be in person, you know, to follow the modules. But the rest of the time, it's up to you to manage your own workload versus your job, right? Yeah. So this I will pass. I'm happy to share it with you later anyways. If you want, if you have any further also questions about today, about the EMDIEL, more like widely about ESCP, this is where when you can ask, you can please feel free to reach out to me. Maybe a final word, guys. I don't know if you, I see there is a question in the chat. Is there, or is it my laptop?
I think Lennart was giving some practical advice on either how to bucket the different methods that are out there, also how to go about the tax deduction of fees here. I was just having this thought that when we planned EMDIEL, I mean, it was also very plan based, right? So we said it's for corporate people only, right? This is also why as you said, it's entrepreneurial leadership. It's more broadly. And then it's super interesting to see that from cohort 1, we had entrepreneurs joining us, right, who were interested in not only sharing their experiences, but also learning about what actually happens to them in a way, right? So this was very curious to see. And then, even better that among the ones who either came from startup experiences or from corporate experiences, a good portion then also go off at some point in time, not necessarily immediately after the program, but at some point in time, and go and build their own companies. This is, of course, obviously also a very cool element of that colorful and fun community that we have there.
Yeah, it's quite unconventional, like for having searched like the market and like to see a little bit what's happening around, and there's no equivalent in structure and and content, or at least in approach. You have bits and pieces this and there, like certificates and all, but in terms like as a full executive master program, this is quite original.
Well, to back you up on this, Mano and René as well. So for me, doing this in the pioneering cohort, I think it was the best educational decision I've made in my life, and I would do it again. And I'm really saying this from the bottom of my heart. So I think what you said, there's still up until today no comparable program, and I think it makes a lot of sense to go through it, and it's absolutely doable besides the job. And it's educating, and it's fun, and it's enlightening. So I would definitely recommend it for everybody who wants to thinking about going down a route like this. And what I mentioned, because I think I just wrote it in our internal chat here for the hosts and the panelists. So I'm living in Stuttgart, Swabia. So Swabian people have the cliche to be really cheap. So I wrote that at least in Germany, a lot of the fees are tax deductible, right? So basically, now you have all good reasons why an EMDIEL is a great program, and it makes a lot of sense to do so.
You guys could take it again. No, you could not.
Yeah. Well, if I can add to that, because I've been participating EMDIEL during COVID time, so there was a lot of co-creation and uncertainty there, yeah. René.
Oh yeah.
If you can remember. and for me, it was also very valuable program and really worth all the time I invested into it. And also for me personally, being a mom with 2 young children, of course, working and studying and going abroad is always a challenge. But as long as you have the support from your family, in my case, my husband and my 2 children back home, it's definitely all worth it.
And thank you both for joining us here and, kind of also giving this testimony of being part of this community, being the pioneer, as you said, Lennart, and also being the COVID cohort. That's quite, that means something to us. So thanks for being in touch, and thanks for, doing this amazing work, which is always great examples for us again to tell in the classrooms, of course, as well.
Yeah, thanks. It definitely warms the heart, especially in my position. Also, to always find the right and relevant things to tell. When I receive a lot of questions, I see that Natalie here said thank you all. This was lovely. Natalie is actually applying. To the EMDIEL, so it's great to have you here. So yeah, thanks. I think it's a wrap. We are almost on time, which is great. Yeah, so, it was a real pleasure to moderate this time today. It was super interesting, all of the inputs. I'm sure that everyone shares the same feeling. And yes, I hopefully speak soon. René, we will see each other on campus, but Yolanda and Lennart, I hope that we can meet at
I see you next month for my graduation.
Yeah,
I come to Berlin.
Celebration. Absolutely.
Time flies. It's already, wow, it's true. It's already end of May.
Another highlight.
2023 is just flying by. It's terrible. Okay, cool then. Then everyone, thanks a lot again for joining, speakers and audience. This is a wrap. I wish you all a very pleasant, hopefully sunny day, like in Berlin. And yes, have a great day, and we'll be in touch, hopefully.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Have a good afternoon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.